One, one, one shot, now the future is yours. Go! I'm turning dreams into reality. In the lab with the formula and chemistry. The memories spark and motivate and make the industry shake. We put the bars in the place. I'm talking one chance at best, yes. Painting pictures for the culture, keep the brushes fresh. Yeah, it's one art, one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
Welcome to another episode of Smash Life Spotlight. My name is Justin Lamb. I'm the founder of Smash Life. I'm so honored to have our next guest here. They are creating a platform to empower women entrepreneurs to launch and grow their businesses. They host a weekly interview with special guests to share tips and tricks on how to build your career and business. They are incredible women that I've had the pleasure of getting to know, and they inspire me to go after my purpose and dreams. They are the authors of the amazing book, In Her Purpose, 40 Principles of Asian Women Redefining Success in Their Own Term. Please welcome Rose Buado and Jenn Redondo-Marquez. Rose and Jenn, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Justin. Thank you for having us. Yes.
As we kick this off, would you mind both maybe introducing yourself, where you guys are from, and maybe how you guys know each other?
So I'm Rose Buado. I am actually Jennifer's cousin. So we've known each other for practically our whole lives. We used to, we used to meet each other at our family parties, and then we used to sneak out. And then after that, sneak away from the family parties with our other cousins. And then after that, we kind of grew into once I started to drive, I was able to pick her up and we would go and do some crazy things, and now we have our own business together. So it's funny how things work. I'm from Los Angeles, California. Jenn can tell you where she's at, but we talk every day, so it feels like we're next to each other all the time. So yeah, that's me.
I'm Jenn. I am born and raised in SoCal. I live right now in the Bay Area, and I have been pretty much for my whole career been working in the corporate world and in tech. And I'm also one of the co-founders and co-authors of In Her Purpose with Rose.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for the quick intro. Maybe talking a little bit about your backgrounds. I know both of you guys have come from different, backgrounds in terms of your career. We'll start with Jenn. If you could walk us through your career. It sounds like you've been in corporate for some time. Maybe just help our listeners understand kind of like where your career has gone, obviously prior to writing the book and where it is now.
Yeah. So Rose and I both come from a family basically full of medical and military professionals. And we're actually two of the few that decided to take a different path. And we actually both started out our careers out of college in the corporate world. I did management consulting for 5 years and was really on the trajectory that most consultants, they go to business school, they have the firm pay for it, and then they come back for 2 years, and then they end up picking an industry to go into. And so I was on that track, and I honestly thought, okay, I'm going to do consulting, go to school, and then just follow that path. And while I was actually in the UCLA Anderson program, one of the top tech companies had called me and invited me to interview. And I said, sure, why not? Let's see what they have to say. And 12 interviews later, I had an offer in hand, and I was really stuck, really, really torn. Do I go to business school? I was studying so hard. I had this plan, and this kind of took a turn in my career. And the best advice that I actually got from my advisor at UCLA, he basically told me, school's always going to be there. If you want to come, we'll let you in. You're a great candidate. Like, we would love to have you. Why don't you go work for that tech company while that innovator that has changed so many lives is still alive. This is your chance. And so I did that. I went and I took the offer. I finished my first year. And after that, my first year at Anderson in the pre-MBA program. And then I started my new job at the tech company. And, I didn't really see myself in tech, especially because in management consulting, I wasn't focused on any type of industry. And it was really because of like who I knew. And I just like happened to be someone that they thought about like experience wise. So I started out my career in operations, and I did not study anything related to tech. And I just pretty much like learned everything through my jobs and just learning on the go. Like, I don't know anyone who really uses anything that they learned in school, except if you're an accountant or a scientist or a lawyer, or a doctor, But like for the rest of us, like we pretty much just learn how to think theoretically and how to problem solve and things like that. And so I was able to move into the engineering space, even though I'm not an engineer by trade. But when you're surrounded by people and the lingo, you pretty much pick it up on the way. And so I have been in tech, what now? Over a decade. So that just sounds so old. And it just honestly, time has flown by so fast. I've launched some amazing products and met amazing people, and I'm still having fun. The only difference now is Rose and I actually decided to create this book because there was a point in time in my career where I could not find a mentor. Like, I was moving up in corporate, and I was seeing less women, and I was seeing less people of color and less people that look like me. So at the time, that's when I had reached out to Rose. And at the time, and she'll tell you more about it, but she was working as a vice president at an ad agency. And, I was like, do any of your colleagues want to mentor me? And she is actually able to introduce me to Sheila Marcello, who is the one of the founders and former CEO of care.com. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. I don't know if she's really going to respond to me. She is the CEO after all. And she actually did. She responded. She set up time to meet me for coffee and flew from Boston to San Francisco. We sat down, talked about my goals and what I want to do. She even gave me a list of people to meet. And it was just amazing. Like, she didn't even know me. She didn't owe me anything. She didn't have to do that for me, but she did it. And since then, like, my life kind of changed in a sense, not just because I had reached out to Rose, but I have access to someone I would never have met. But because it showed me that there are women out there who do look like me, who are at that level. It's hard to find them. Like, there's no stories, no nothing. And Rose, I mean, you can tell him how the book idea came about.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear definitely that conversation that you guys had when you were looking for a mentor. I'm sure that was a interesting conversation. And Rose, I'm curious, how were you able to refer Jenn in that aspect? I mean, did you have a connection already, and you were like, hey, I'd like you to meet my cousin? But just, would love to hear that story.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'll start from the very beginning.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Please.
So at the age of 18, I actually started my first business. But at that time, I didn't know that it was my first business because, who has that mindset at the age of 18, thinking that you're going to start a business? Our parents, taught us how to finish school, get a degree, find your corporate world, or go into the medical field, and then, climb up the corporate ladder and then live off your 401k, right? So that was the map that I was going through. that's what I'm going to do. That's what I was told to do. And so that's what's going to happen. But along the way, when I went into college, at that time, when you're just 18, I went to Cal State Long Beach. They used to have credit cards, like credit card booths, just hanging out on the sides, and like flashing candy at you, saying, "Come here and sign up for your credit card," because it's like money that you can spend now, and you can get some pay it later. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool! I can buy this jacket, or I can buy all these things, right?" So I ran up my credit card bill and my mom found it. And she was like, "What is this? I'm not going to pay for it." And I was like, "What? How are you not going to pay for this? How are you not going to help me?" And then she's like, "No, this is your responsibility. You have to do it. You have to pay for it." So I started thinking outside the box. I was like, well, I'm still going to school. I need to go to school. So I need to do something else. And at the time, my passion was dancing. I love to dance. So I went to the park and I asked them, the local park, if I could teach dancing there. And then from there, I started, they said yes. From there, I started teaching all of these kids, like every Tuesdays and Thursdays for an hour, how to dance. But it turned out to be more than that. It was more about confidence building, and it was about building courage so that they can go out there and actually do something that they like to do, or something that they don't like to do, but they're just going to be put out there, right? And be challenged. So I started doing that. And I did that for a long time, but again, I still didn't know that it was a job it was a business that I started. And then from there, it moved into helping people. I don't know if in the Filipino culture, we have things called debuts. So we do a lot of choreographing events. And in the event, we teach dancing, and the girl comes out, the birthday girl comes out when they turn 18. So I started teaching that, and then it grew into a full-on events company. I started doing concerts. I started doing weddings. I started doing all these special events, which was so fun. And I was still in college at this time. And then so I finally graduated college, still doing that on the side. And then I went into my marketing job. So I was like, yes, I graduated Cal State Long Beach. Now I'm going to go get my real job, and then I'm going to go get my 401k and all that. Right? So I went into the sales job, and it was for Fox Sports, which was a really fun time for me. But from there, I grew into media. So I started doing advertising for all of these networks, like media networks. And then from there, I started doing advertising for different clients who were also in the tech world. And then from there, I just kept climbing this ladder. But at the same time, as much as I climbed, my entire mindset just went from being happy to being bored or being stuck or feeling like, wait, this can't just be it. This can't just be what I'm meant to do. So from there, my brother, my brother is a musician. And the thing about my parents were that they were like, you could do whatever you want to do as long as you finish school and get a job, right? Just finish school, get a job. And they weren't really stuck on me on going into the medical field, or stuck on me on going into accounting or anything like that. They just wanted to make sure I got an education. And my brother was a musician, and they really inspired or motivated my brother to go into that field because he was very talented, and he is very talented. So so because I learned all that stuff in business, climbing that corporate ladder, he ended up landing this really cool gig on The Voice. And when he got on The Voice, I was able to help him, train him with interviewing stuff. And then from there, he was able to get on it. He was able to get on TV and, get with CeeLo Green and stuff. So that was really cool. But that's when I realized, wait, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to actually be helping people get to where they want to be, or help, with their goals. So when that happened, my brother ended up forming another group, an a cappella group with another bunch of guys a year later. And they weren't really, they got into a show, and they didn't have any management or anything. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this.
They were on the sing off.
Yes, they were on the sing off. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to help you guys get to where you guys want to be. And then that's when I was doing both. I was doing my corporate, and then I was, managing musicians. And I loved it. I loved it so much that that I was already contemplating, like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be in my corporate job. I'm supposed to be doing, something like this. I'm supposed to be helping and serving people one by one, or, as a group, so that I can see the actual results. And when that happened, we started touring, and I started meeting these amazing women who were actually making like decisions. They were the, boss ladies. They were the ones just telling everybody, like, this is how things will go. And then they were making profit out of it, not for them, but like they were building the company, into like these billion-dollar companies. And I was like, wait a second, who are these women? And how come I don't know them? So, so I started learning more about them, and I would like, because they would hire the band, I would have that step in. So as soon as I saw her or him or whoever it was, of course I would go and talk to them. And that part was scary, because I was like, oh my God, I can't talk to these people, but I'm going to have to, because that's what I'm gonna do. So I went and I talked to them, I learned more about them, and then I started building relationships with them. And then from there, that's how, along the way, that's when Jenn started feeling that she needed a mentor. And around that same time is when I met Cheryl, because of a show that we did in Boston. So so that's how we connected. That's how we connected there. And then along the way, I was like, wait, I have to find something on them. There has to be more on them, like on the internet or on Google or something. And so I started Googling them, and I found nothing. I would only find them on their company website, but it wouldn't give me their story. It wouldn't tell me like how they got there. Like how did they get to start? How did they even build $1 billion business, and how did they get to the top of $1 billion business? So so that's at the same time Jenn was having the mentorship situation, and I was having the like, wait, who are these women? And then it kind of just collided, because we would, like I said earlier, we talked every day, and we would talk about what was happening within our lives, and we were just able to put this together. And on top of that, I actually went onto, I didn't find anything on them. So I went onto Amazon, and I was like, there has to be a book. I know there has to be a book. So we Googled successful Asian women, and the only book that showed up was How to Marry One. So that was our aha moment.
That's an issue. Yes.
Yes, that was our aha moment. That was in 2018. Okay.
Yeah.
2018. And I'm happy to say that things are changing. So there are more and more books coming out there on, what Asian women are really are doing, what type of businesses people are putting out, what type of stories. There's even more novels about Asian women. So I'm really proud of that. And when we started this in 2018, it was just that one book.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. No, that's so inspiring. I'm interested to hear, your guys' mindset. Obviously, you guys saw an opportunity where you wanted to highlight Asian women who are successful, and you just saw that there was a gap there. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, finding happiness, because I think that sometimes can be a struggle for some people. Rose, specifically for you, you had, you're a VP, and you just were starting to feel that sense of, maybe this isn't the right route for me. And I think, Jenn, you have too, with, another position that you took in the tech world. But, what was that conversation with yourself internally around, really being true to yourself, right? Because I think that there's a lot of times when we just kind of go through the motions, right, of life, or just like, yeah, well, I'm getting paid, and this is my journey, but like, for a lot of people, they might not necessarily be happy. Like, what was that conversation with yourself about, and how were you able to pinpoint that, okay, this is the time for me where I really need to take action, because I want to educate some people that may be going through that, and they just maybe have self-doubt and whatnot. What was that like for you guys?
Yeah. So for me, my daughter was born in 2011. So around that time was when I started feeling like, okay, there has to be more to this, because I have to always ask permission to be where my daughter is at. Like I have to ask, okay, if something was happening, like a school assembly or she was sick, I didn't like that feeling of me having to ask permission to leave work to go attend to her. So that was one big issue that I had that really bothered me in the beginning. But even before then, I already had like some type of feeling inside me that I wanted to see more than what I was producing for the company. Like there was something missing as far as, yes, we're doing great for the client. We're, you know, hitting goals and meeting profit margins and all of that great stuff. And, but I was not seeing the results firsthand. I would just, you know, get like a email or something. And that was something that wasn't authentic to me already. But what I think what really put me over was when I did have my first daughter, and when she came, it was like asking permission. There was times when I had to, I was working during my my leave, my maternity leave at home, and I was worried about the business and not so much my daughter at the time. I was like juggling both, and I was like, wait, this is not right. Something is wrong here. And then once she got a little older, I was like, okay, since she's older, maybe things will get better, you know. But then I ended up having my son in 2013, and then I stayed there. I stayed for until 2018 with the company still. So still feeling that inside of, or those feelings of being incomplete, being stuck, something was missing, or I'm not supposed to be here. But what really put me over the edge was when somebody told me, or like I would always think like, okay, the weekends, I need the weekends to come. And it's like, why am I living for the weekend? We should be living every day. Nobody should have the case of the Mondays. Nobody should have to, like, you know, think about, oh, it's Cookie Wednesday at the office. Like we had Cookie Wednesdays, and that was like the perk. And I was like, no, there has to be more. But I think that's when I finally realized, like, okay, I shouldn't be living for the weekends. We need to be living every day, and I need to be there with my kids. I need to watch them grow. I don't want to ask for permission, and I don't want to have to clock in and clock out and check the time all the time. Not because I don't want to or don't or can't, but because we shouldn't have to live like that.
Agreed. I agree for sure. No, that's really interesting, and I'm curious to hear, Jen, from your perspective too. I mean, you've also encountered, you know, a time in your life, and kind of what was your mindset when you were in that situation, and like what was that conversation like?
Yeah. So as I was saying, I've been at many companies for a very long time, and so it's very natural to feel comfortable. And you know, when you're comfortable, you don't really want to like move or do anything or change things up. And one of the things that I learned from my husband, actually two things that I learned from my husband. One was you really don't grow out in your comfort zone. So like growth happens when you're uncomfortable. So that was like one part. And then the second is he always used to tell me, you won't know if you don't go. Right. And so a lot of times I would ignore recruiters and not really entertain their phone calls. But this time when I was feeling stuck, I basically said, you know what, like I'll start talking, I'll start seeing what's out there. And I had that mindset where I always wondered what it would be like somewhere else. Like, is the grass greener on the other side? And again, you won't know unless you go. And so I left my comfort zone and I went to go try something new. And it was honestly like a really terrible experience for me. And the grass was not greener on the other side. And I learned a lot about myself, but in retrospect, I wouldn't have been able to write the book and finish this project with Rose, because I actually had time. This, I wasn't as busy as I normally am. I wasn't traveling as much as, and it really allowed me to have the time to focus on our project and to build our own company, our own book, and see that to fruition. And honestly, like, it was a really difficult time in my career, my professional career. But I will say my mindset was really different this time around. And I think it was because, I know it is because Rose and I were interviewing over 38 women for the book during this time. And hearing their stories, and I kind of felt like they were mentoring me and talking to me through these interviews. And honestly, like, they gave me the confidence to just take the leap and to move forward and to keep going, and really just to like make bold moves and take risks, and to really like live and be happy. And because I saw a lot of them, like they've proven that like you can make it and do things that you love and still be happy and still make money. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is not my forever place. This is just a place where I'm going to stay until I finish the book. And I already knew that I was out, but having that, the motivation, and having that, like, our tribe and our community, like, that was super helpful. And also having Rose, having an accountability partner is super important, because sometimes when you're doing stuff on your own, you kind of not get lazy, but you don't really have to report to somebody to say like, hey, I finished like these 5 things. What did you do?
True.
Like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow.
It's very true.
Yeah. So like all those things, like really helped my mindset during that time, and even still till today.
For sure. Well, thank you both for sharing that. I think, we can learn a lot from that, whether it's, just taking control of your happiness, right? I think in the end, it's, understanding where you're at in your life, and taking control of it, and figuring out ways that you can make yourself happy. Because I agree, we sometimes do live for the weekends. Like I know I've had jobs that I did the same, right? It's just like, when is this week gonna end and I can enjoy my Saturday and Sunday, and same thing with Jenn, in terms of just like, you don't know until you try, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that that's like a really big thing in terms of how you should live your life. It's like, if you have this dream or something, like, yes, you want to be educated, you want to be prepared as much as you can, but part of it is also trying and being thrown into the fire a little bit. And I'm feeling that as well, but you start to push yourself in ways that you never even realize that you can go, like places that you could go, just because you're really doing stuff that you love. And definitely want to encourage that more for all of our listeners and the people out there, just because, like I said, you only have one life to live. So it's how do you want to live it, really? And so super inspiring by both of you guys. I wanted to talk a little bit about, the idea around the book. Obviously, you guys were doing research. There was a gap there. Tell me what that thought process was like now that you guys were like, hey, there could be an opportunity for us. How did you guys come up with, first off, like a book? You decided a book instead of maybe like a podcast series. Just kind of understand. I would love to hear your mindset around like how it got started and the story behind it.
Well, the book was really because Rose was so upset about her Google search and her Amazon find. So that was like number one. She was so upset and wanted to fix it. And so our first initial and only goal at the time was to write a book. And even that seemed so far-fetched because we never wrote a book. So we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. We didn't know what to do, but we figured it out.
I said it was only going to take us 3 months to do.
No.
So how long did it actually take?
18 months.
Wow.
It was about we both didn't know where to begin, but we ended up doing it, and it was great. It was a good process. It was a great learning experience. reasons, for
For
sure.
I can imagine. I can't imagine. But so tell me a little bit in terms of when you guys started to think, okay, we're gonna find Asian women that we want to interview and tell their story. Like, what was your process like? Did you guys have a particular list of people that you wanted to go after? Like, just walk me through your journey in terms of writing this book. I mean, obviously there was a lot to it in over the 18 months. But like, did you guys have an idea like, oh, we have 30 women that we already know? Or was it like, okay, we want to reach out to some people? And how did you guys start to compile that list?
Our initial goal was 20, and we thought that was even hard. We're like, can you think of 20 Asian women that are at a specific level that are not in traditional fields? And it was a real struggle for us. And we started with our own network, and I think we came out with like 10 or less maybe in our network. And then as soon as we started to tell people, this is our project, this is what we're working on, this is what we want to do, people started introducing us to people. We started meeting way more women. So that was amazing. I also did some Instagram trolling,
a lot of Instagram.
A lot of Instagram trolling, and following people for a while to see like what kind of content they put out there, what kind of person are they. And we didn't know them, but we reached out to them and they actually responded. So
yeah.
That's awesome.
And as far as like mindset, in the very beginning when when we came up with the idea, I remember thinking or feeling like no one is going to want to read a book about Asian women. If there were people that wanted to read about it, the book would be out already. Yeah. But we were so wrong. And I'm so grateful that, Jenn talked about accountability earlier, but that her and I held each other accountable to do this, because if we didn't, we would have never have found out that a book like this is much needed in the world that we're in today. A lot of Asian women, and not only Asian women, a lot of, diverse or other nationality women told us, like, we didn't know we needed this book until they saw the book, right? So that was something that that we or my mindset was in the very beginning, but I'm glad that we were able to get past it, and then we were able to actually move forward with finding these women. Yeah, Jenn's right. We started with 20, and then they just all started, that energy that we put out started coming to us, and then it started getting easy. And then all of IG and Facebook was that part was fun too.
That's awesome. No, that's amazing. And I think that it's just coming together with the right purpose, right? And I think we've talked about purpose before in terms of, finding your purpose and understanding. I think everyone had that same goal in mind when you guys probably reached out to them and they loved it. And tell me a little bit about you, some obstacles that you guys had to overcome. I know that it wasn't easy, probably a lot of trial and error, but tell me a little bit about, what were some of the things that you guys learned from this experience? Whether it's like a particular mindset or maybe just from like the book industry that you're like, I never knew that before. I was just kind of curious of like what.
Oh my goodness.
Or maybe the top that you guys have encountered so far.
Well, one of the challenges that I remember us going through was we actually interviewed more than 38 women. We interviewed a few more, but some of those ladies, which are we respect very much, they weren't happy with the way their chapters came. So we had to figure out like a better way to keep them involved, or to decide if we were going to take them off the book or take off the project. So I thought that was a very big challenge. And Jenn and I don't think we've ever even talked much about this challenge, but I think it's a very big challenge. And that we got through it. It was us deciding if we were going to, and these aren't regular women. These are like really strong, opinionated women that like are really putting a stamp into the world right now. And we had to decide if we were going to keep them in the book or take them off. So that was a challenge in itself. And then the second one was just learning how to put your book online or, distribute, how to like format the book, how to, it was like learning, just not just the grammar part, but learning how to, the artwork layout, knowing what an ISBN number was,
and how many to buy.
Yeah, how many we needed to buy. How to even put it onto the book. Like it was an experience, but I'm glad that we have it. So we know how to do things now. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, going back to what Rose had mentioned about the women that we decided not to include in the book, and the reason why it was such a challenge is because they wanted to appear perfect, and that's not interesting. Like, no one wants to read about how perfect your life is and how amazing and how easy it was for you to get from here to there. And I think people relate more to people who fail and who make mistakes and have challenges, because that's what we all go through. Like, we make mistakes, we just SHIT happens,
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And and it's so hard. And the thing with the whole journey, like, they had incredible journeys, like how they even got here, how they got to where they're at. Like every type of, everybody had a different story, right? And these women had an amazing story, but they wanted us to leave it out. And we're like, wait, but we agreed that we were going to share your entire story, and that's what happened. They didn't want to share that. Which is unfortunate because their stories need to be out there.
Yeah.
Sure, for sure. Yeah, and I think that that's what's really important about even doing these types of interviews. It's that it's never an easy road to get to where you are, and you're gonna face different challenges along the way, right? And it's like for you to share kind of your mindset around how you overcame struggles, or even how you were struggling during that time. It's part of our journey that makes us who we are. And I think and then everyone, not everybody, but there will be certain people that can relate to that story, right? And if you can inspire them, like that's what this is all about, right? And to be able to share that no one's perfect, and we want to see everyone be successful, and we know that there's challenges along the way, and it's just how do we help each other, right? Empower each other. And you guys are doing that with your platform today. Obviously you guys launched the book and it was very successful. And now you guys have created this platform where you're helping other women entrepreneurs. Tell me a little bit more about kind of life after the book, what the conversation was like what was next.
So we finished the book, and Rose and I were just going to go do the self-publishing thing. And I said, well, why don't we just make our own publishing company? And so when we were forming our own company, instead of just calling it In Her Purpose Publishing, we were forward thinking, like, oh, it's going to be more than a publishing company. So we should just make it In Her Purpose. And, originally we said we're going to do a book. And then I came to Rose and said, let's just make In Her Purpose Publishing. That's who's going to publish this book. And so that was like the next step. And then from there, we started doing like our live show on Facebook and on Kumu. And now we're going to actually take those recordings and make a podcast. And then, so we built this fabulous community. Rose is still continuing to coach women. You can tell him more about that.
Yeah. So before also leaving my marketing and advertising job, I remember how I told you I started my first business at the age of 18. Since people knew that I did that, they would come to me and help, and they would ask me, like, Rose, how did you start the business? So I would go through these steps with them, like, okay, you need to do this, and this. And because I was in the marketing and advertising industry, I already knew how to do marketing and advertising. But that's always a learning thing. So I already had like all of these people asking me to help them with their businesses. And so I did that. But since the book, or while we were writing the book, I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to put my system in and make it an official coaching system. So now not only do we have a book, but we're also helping women transition from corporate to entrepreneurship so they could live the life that they want to live. Just like how I was, in the beginning when I was feeling stuck and incomplete and I was feeling there has to be more. I know there's a lot of women out there who feel the same way. And that's when we've made it one of our missions to be able to help them, to liberate them from those types of feelings so that they can actually go out there and make their own destiny and, be with their families and, be happy. So that's one of the things that our In Her Purpose is meant to do. So we have our book, we have our podcast, we have our coaching, we have our and we're also helping lift up other women and men who have products. So we're helping them sell their products through our platform, which we feel like it benefits our community because they're really cool products that everybody should have. And then it helps with the businesses because they are Asian, they are putting a stamp onto their world, and we want to be there to help them. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. We'll definitely be linking on our page to that site, so that way if you're interested in learning more, we'll definitely link you there. But yeah, incredible stuff that you guys are working on, and it's amazing to see you guys inspiring so many people, and especially writing this book, and also just kind of pointing people in the right direction when they want to make a change in their life. I think that's really important. So thank you for that. Kind of transitioning, what is next for In Her Purpose? Are you guys planning on writing a second book, or well, maybe if you guys are thinking about that, or give us the inside scoop? But what is next for you guys?
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff that we're working on. I'm actually teaching a course on how to level up in your career. So that these are for people who are starting out in their career or they feel stuck, whether it's if they want to move up or network, resume building, polishing up your LinkedIn profiles, how to prepare for interviews, that kind of like corporate stuff. What else are we doing?
Authentic self-awareness expo. What we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds gonna be fun.
I'd be interesting to see that for sure.
Yeah,
obviously our mission is to empower each other to be our authentic selves. So that's very interesting. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys are working on a lot. I'm inspired and I'm excited for you guys. I mean, obviously we got to know each other a little bit more, and so definitely would love to stay in touch about that and continue to promote. I think like in the end, we're trying to empower, like we're on the very, very much the same mission, right? It's just to inspire people and find happiness for people. So some general questions for you guys, and thank you guys again for sharing this. How do each of you define success in your life?
So the reason why we wrote this book is, if you look at the subtitle, it's redefining success on their own terms. And very well, growing up in an Asian family, a lot of us are very fearful and we don't want to disappoint our parents. So, we're always looking to please them and trying to avoid conflict by all means. And so, we go to school and we go to college. Do we necessarily pick what we want to study? Sometimes no. And we end up doing what they want us to do. And then later on, no, you know what? If you have enough courage to stand up to your mom and dad, then at that point, you actually do what you go and pursue what you want after you give them what they expect of you, right?
Yeah.
So that's why in the book, we tried to pick women that are in non-traditional fields. So for us, a lot of people in our community are nurses. And so we do actually have two nurses in our book, but they're non-traditional. They're not bedside nurses. They started their own med spas, and one is a comedian, Happy Slip. So,
That's awesome.
So like that's one thing, is just redefining, like success looks different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But the two things that stand out for me, especially from the book, is one of the gals on our book, Jenn, Jennifer Boyd Desai, she has this quote, and it's be you, boo. And so basically, be you, do you, And I mean, that's what it is. Like, it's your life, so you should live it out the way like you want. And then the second is something that we learned from Joanne Boston, which is lift as you climb. And that's something that I love to see being practiced, because I went to an all-girls school in high school, and it was very catty. No one wanted to share anything because they thought, like, there's only one number one spot. There's not enough room at the top. I need to be the best. So girls were very competitive, and they didn't want to share. They didn't want to uplift or anything. But one of the things that in this process, Rose and I have learned is there's enough room, there's abundance. And the more that we work together, like, the farther we're going to get, and the faster we'll get there. And you don't have to do it alone. And so for me, that's my long answer to what success means to me.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes. And Jenna's right. Everybody definition of success is very different. Mine is to be able to provide not only for my family, not only to provide for my family, but to also be happy within the family, to make sure that my families or my kids are happy, my husband's happy, my brothers, my cousins, my sisters, everybody, everybody's happy. To me, that's success. When I have an event, or when we have, something that's like really important, and, and it's done, and that feeling that you have of relief, or of proudness and confidence, that to me is success. So success is not always about money. It's always about just feeling good, and then being able to share it with somebody, with your family. And I think to me, that's what success is, and to be able to give and not expect anything back, right? Like, that's what success is to me. Yeah, and I'm just happy about talking about it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think, I love your vision around redefining success, right? Because we as a society have kind of always thought that money equated to success, right? And I think that we're starting to see it more now. It's like, and we're kind of pushing towards that mission is, yes, I mean, money can provide some happiness, but I think you don't really find that success unless you find something that you're truly happy doing, right? And I think that you start to see it more because, like you said, Rose, like, you're going through this ladder of being VP, and like, yeah, money is there, but if you're not really happy, like, are you, like, what's happening? Like, what's that feeling like? And I think, we have to redefine that a little bit as a society, and share that, because, you may, you'd be working, but as long as you're empowered, if you like want to inspire people and you're doing that, and you're able to kind of take care of yourself and your family, I mean, that could be success for you, right? It's really interesting because I've been interviewing a lot of people, and they're not like these crazy successful, like, multimillionaire like people. They're just people that I think are successful because they're going after what they want, right? And similar with you guys. And I think, like, we just need we should promote that more as a society, because you start to kind of see the creativeness of everyone around us, and it's just like really unique to see the diversity and what could come about within the world. And I really love that answer from the both of you guys, so definitely appreciate that. And I guess one last question before we hop off here, if you had a chance to go back 10 years to tell yourself one thing, what piece of advice would you get? What piece of advice would that be to yourself?
For me, it would be to bet on yourself, take the leap, and don't be afraid. I spent a lot of time being loyal and staying in a place too long, whether it's a job or a relationship. It was because I was comfortable, and I didn't want to be afraid. And I just, if it was okay and not really that bad, right? Like, I didn't really think about, like, oh, I should go try something different. But what I said earlier is that growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone, and you won't know if you don't show up. And so I honestly, because time is going so fast, like I just believe in failing fast and failing as much as possible. Because then at least you tried something and you know, like, I don't like that, or I'm really good at that, or that was awesome. I'm going to keep going down that path. And so,
Love that.
yeah, don't wait. Just do it.
Yeah.
You know, like Nike.
For sure. How about you,
Yeah.
Rose?
So I believe I have two things. So my first thing is similar to what Jenn said, is I would make the decision and not sit on something and wait. I would have decided, because at 10 years ago, I already knew I was feeling stuck and incomplete. I was feeling something. I should have just, or not should have, but I'm happy where I'm at now. So I'm happy how everything panned out. But 10 years ago, I would have said, just make the decision and do it, right? Make this decision, just make it happen.
Yeah, because Rose, you did tell me a million times, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. Yeah. I'm going to quit. And it's like, I don't know how many times I heard that. And you never did it.
I found it for a long time because I was scared. But I got through it, and now I'm here. So I'm very grateful for everything that happened. And I would also, the second thing is I would also share everything that I knew, all of my knowledge that I had back then. I would have shared it and not keep it to myself, because the more you give, the more things happen to you. So I would have been more open. Before, I used to think like, no, we cannot share our secrets, because if we share our secrets, that client is going to know and they're going to, steal it or whatever. So I would have definitely shared, and shared as much as I could, and then also take in as much as I could, learn, study more, learn about different industries, see what else is out there. I started doing that a little earlier, or maybe a couple years ago, but it's just like opening a book, like a new book on something, is just so different from how it like back then. If I think I would have done that back then, I would have had so many more ideas. Like I would have been able to share it with everybody, and I would have loved it. I'm doing it now, so I love it now. So
That's awesome. No, yeah, that's amazing. I think that it's important that we always better ourselves every day, right? I think we are never perfect, and I think we talked about this earlier, but it's just kind of like taking it in, learning, and being able to share and just get better. I think like we're always people that are hungry to connect and learn and just to continue to do that, because we have this opportunity now. We're connected, more than ever, and it's now is the time to really appreciate the diversity, appreciate the different types of knowledge that people have, and then be able to learn and share your own knowledge. And you guys are doing that. So with your platform, and you guys are inspiring to me. I hope I can do the same to many, many people. And, definitely this interview is going to be something that, I will be showing to a lot of people that are just inspired to be inspired. I think like in the end, we only have one life to live, as I always like to say, like the YOLO, and just get, and like Smash Life is like that motivation, right? It's just like, what are you going to do? Like, and you guys are definitely smashing life, in my opinion. You guys are taking control of what you want, and you guys are living every day with purpose, and you guys seem extremely happy, and you guys are doing more and more and more, which is great for the community, and you guys are sharing that knowledge. And so I just really want to thank you guys both for taking, an hour of your time today to share the story of the book and how your life and just like the mindset to be able to kind of live life to the fullest. So thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you
for
for
having
everything
us.
that you are doing. You are amazing, because there needs to be more people like you. Yeah.
There are plenty of people like me. No, not
Well, I'm sure there is, but there's not a lot of people out there who is doing it, who's making things happen. So good for you,
Thank
Justin.
you.
Keep it up. I'm so proud of you.
Well, definitely, you guys are definitely an inspiration. I know that we connected, and I'm really motivated by you guys' success and what you guys are doing. And like I said, not only are we trying to highlight incredible people with this mentality, but it's also we want to point people in the right direction for the resources. And so we'll definitely point them in your way. We just keep that cycle going, because I think it's great to see what you guys are doing. So thank you again. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the interview, make sure to click the subscribe button and follow us on our social media.